So this is my first video recording ever. So please forgive the grainy quality, basically forgive everything. Um, Also, I'm gonna go about this in my usual style. I'm going to speak ad lib. I don't have any notes memorized. Uh, I'm gonna share this video on my blog, which is truthforceeducation.wordpress.com. So please check it out. So I've been struggling with some ideas over the past few weeks, and I'm finally going to try and put it into some sort of coherent form. So I started this year off in Tejgarh, which is a beautiful part of rural Gujarat, and I attended a 10-day Theatre of the Oppressed intensive, and it was completely lovely. I met some really wonderful, energetic, passionate people. There were social workers, there were performers, theatre people, there were teachers, and there were people who did all of these things. And it was a really wonderful group. And every evening, after we'd had a very spicy, locally cooked dinner, we'd all congregate in the boys' dorm and we'd share our life and work experiences. So every day there'd be one or two sharings, and after the sharings, there'd be a discussion. And a lot of these discussions started revolving around one idea, or rather, to be more precise, one idea kept cropping up, and that was the idea of who we work with, in the sense, are we working in the private sector? Are we working in the public sector? Am I working in a private school? Am I working in a low income government school? Am I working with poor kids or rich kids? And through this all, this word kept coming up again and again, corporate, in various tones. Um, and these discussions became pretty heated because we were all passionate about our work. We were proud, passionate performers, and therefore we thought that our work was valuable. And we resented people saying that our work was less valuable than a certain other kind of work. Uh, and when we come to uncomfortable conversations like this, when we feel that we're being attacked, today our first tendency is to try and sweep the conversation under the rug. We don't like hurting people's feelings and sentiments today. It's really bad to hurt people's sentiments because, why? We should be kind and positive and supporting and loving. And so we all resent being, labeled. We resent being categorized, we resent being judged, and we resent being dismissed. Of course, I mean, we're complex individuals and we don't fall into simple categories like private or elitist or anything of that kind. And surely there are, if you think about it, there are performers who do beautiful, meaningful work, even if it isn't social work, so to speak. There are teachers in government schools, in private schools, who are passionate, innovative, transformative educators. So, what are we even talking about? Um, so we decide that since we've got to resolve these things peacefully, since we are not going to judge anybody, we decide that the cornerstone of democratic society is freedom, including the freedom to choose our own lifestyles, our own careers. And so long as these choices don't impact anybody else's choices, we refrain from assigning these choices moral, subjective worth. And I'm not saying here that we should be tearing each other down, reducing and dismissing other people's beautiful and complex lives. That's really not what I'm saying. I think we need to take a step back and we need to reflect on who really is free and on how our choices are influenced, even dictated by forces that are beyond our control. Social expectations, family expectations, and in the case of millions and millions of poor people in this country, economic necessity. Yes, economic necessity. When we choose to teach in a certain kind of school, in an international school, when we choose to perform in an expensive, air conditioned auditorium, we're not just making a simple choice. We're not just picking out one flavor of ice cream from a supermarket aisle. And the same thing can extend to any kind of career, actually, not just performance or teaching careers. It's not as simple as, I don't like vanilla ice cream, I'm going to have chocolate ice cream. If you like vanilla ice cream, you have vanilla ice cream. We're in fact choosing to turn away. We're choosing to turn away from the world. We're choosing to shut out all but the fewest of the few from our lives. And in a later talk, I'm going to look at how we've banished the poor in this country, how we systematically choose to look away from those who are less fortunate than us. But of course, the blame for this doesn't lie with performers or with teachers. I mean, if you think about it, performers are anyway struggling, performers are anyway underpaid, and so are teachers. In this day of mass media, I mean, why are we not focusing on the doctors? Why are we not focusing on the lawyers who are working with the corporates? Why are we not focusing on the investment bankers? Why are we singling out these poor teachers and performers in this case? Because again, my purpose is not to point fingers, my purpose is not to admonish, my purpose is to create a life of beauty and joy for myself and for the world. The reason I start by speaking out to performers and to teachers is because I believe in the function. Sorry, let me put that differently. I believe that these people have a special function, and that structurally the work that performers and teachers do is potentially really transformative of the way we live, is potentially a way to break out of this looking away, of this ducking our heads down like ostriches. Mm, so then we come to the role of a teacher, particularly a school teacher. And for me, and I borrow perhaps heavily from my own Krishnamurti education, the role of a school teacher is to help the students see themselves and the world clearly, fully, wholly. This involves two interlinked processes. The first is, of course, learning about the world, its history, its geography, its culture, how the natural world works, how machines work. And the other part is learning about the self. Who am I? What motivates me? What are my desires? Why do I act in one way? Why do I feel this way? How am I connected to the rest of this world? What are my relationships with all this stuff, this history, this geography, this civics, this science, this world that I'm studying about? And as a performer, particularly as a stage actor, one learns attention, to be fully present in the moment, in the scene, to feed off other people's energy, to be fully aware of the space that you're in. You go to any theater workshop anywhere in the world, and they will have you walking around the space. I think 9 out of 10 theater workshops have walking around the space. So, being aware of the space that you inhabit, being aware of the body that you inhabit, being aware of your mind, being aware of the sensory information that you're receiving, being aware of your audience and how you're affecting and are affected by your audience. Depending on the style of theater, you're always being aware of these things in different ways. Stage presence is the hallmark of a great actor, being absolutely aware of the sensations around you and in your head. So now I'm going to ask, can we speak of presence and awareness as performers? Can we speak of seeing the world clearly, seeing ourselves clearly as teachers, when we constantly choose to look away, when we're systematically, day in and day out, interacting meaningfully only with people of a certain class, people who earn a certain amount of money, people with a certain cultural background? Can we really be aware of the space around us if we close our eyes and corner ourselves off? Or alternatively, if we're pushing everybody else out of our space, if I'm in a space, if I'm in a theater space and I'm doing a walking exercise, I would be instructed by the facilitator. I want you to be aware of the other bodies in the space. I want you to not bump into them. And that's wonderful. So I'm being aware of the space, and I'm being aware of myself, and I'm being aware of everybody else in the space. But can I really be aware if I just lump everybody else in the space into one tiny corner and I take the rest of the space for myself and I walk around mindless of the space and mindless of other people? So that's what we're doing with our daily lives. And I'm going to speak again, I said, in a later talk about this in more detail. But when the spaces we work in, even the spaces we lived in, are sanitized, elitist, walled away from the masses of this country, can we truly be aware? Can we truly be sensitive? And so I'm going to leave you with two possible endings to this talk. The first is the more radical conclusion, and it's a radical, but it's also an undefended idea, which is why I'm giving you an alternative ending. And the radical idea is this: it is not possible to be a good performer, it is not possible to be a good school teacher unless we are fully aware of the world we live in, unless we are interacting truly with the people in this world and in this country. Okay, so again, it's not defended, and I'm not going to defend it because it's something you can never truly defend. I'd have to go into different schools of philosophy, and it'll take a lot of time. It's also 3 in the morning, so forgive me, my mind is not so sharp. The other thing I offer up more hesitantly, and it's probably more easier for people to accept, which is, can we as performers and teachers and just people, because we're all, I mean, I think that performing and teaching are not just for elitist specialist teachers and performers. I think that anybody can be a teacher, and I think that anybody can be a performer, because if we're saying that we learn from the world, then we can also, if we're learning from everybody else, then we can also teach everybody else. But that apart, can we as performers, as teachers, as people in our lives, can we, along with the work we do in whatever space we do, can we expand our awareness, not just through physical theater exercises, or not just through reading about current affairs in the Maldives? Can we expand our awareness by living? Can we live and work and walk in spaces that are not our own? Can we interact meaningfully, deeply with people who are very different than us? Can we give our art and our teaching and the beauty that comes with it to all people in this country and the world? With that, I'll end my hastily cobbled together, intellectually fuzzy first attempt at a video. Forgive me, I'm only 23, it's my first video, and it's 3 in the morning, and I have no notes. Goodbye. Please check out Truth Force Education. In my next few videos, I'm going to be talking about the state of education in this country, and I'm going to be trying to look at it in a very holistic manner. Um, and I'm also going to be talking about how we exclude the poor from our daily lives. Apart from that, I want to sort of expand on how we can, uh, through lived actions, move to increase our awareness as performers and teachers, not just through intellectual exercises, not just through meditation and watching our mind. Okay, see you folks. Tata. Bye bye. Good night.